Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 277th ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the MSP studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. Happy New Year. How you doing this new year, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. Do you make any New Year's resolutions?
Not a big New Year's resolution guy.
You're not you're not feeling like a new man, hitting 2024 and just
Not this year.
not this year. Okay.
Other years, maybe.
There's something like just turning the calendar to the new
Yeah.
year. You just feel like time to rise and grind. You know,
Yeah.
new year, new me.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, something about the end of the year. I'm just feeling kind of lazy. It's Christmas. I'm eating bad.
Yeah.
But when it's the new calendar, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
time to sharpen up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like if I was going to do New Year's resolutions, I'm all of them, all the stereotypical ones, apply to me right now. So it feels like there's too many.
Too many improvements you can
How do
make.
I choose between exercising, eating better, getting more sleep? How do I choose between those things that would just make me feel better?
I don't know. So you just don't do any of them.
Either do them all or nothing. So far, nothing.
Okay.
We'll see if that changes.
Yeah, same here. It's like, I feel like I should be a new man, but I'm like, it's just same old me, actually.
Yeah. This was your first New Year's Eve with a baby, with a child.
Yeah. I was telling my wife earlier today, actually, I'm like, it doesn't even feel like the new year because I didn't go. This is like the first time I didn't go to some kind of gathering. I didn't watch the ball drop. I didn't celebrate when the clock struck midnight.
Were you awake when that happened?
I think I was actually, but I was like ready for bed and was just home. So
Yeah.
didn't feel official.
We got a babysitter and went out to a friend's house, and then we thought we were going to maybe Uber home, but Ubering home in Springfield, Missouri is not really like Ubering in a big city, you know?
It's expensive.
It's expensive, and you don't even know if there's going to be any drivers out. And we waited too long to try to set it up, so it was like 1:30, and we found a car. It was on its way, then it disappeared.
It's like, we're good to drive now.
Yeah, basically, by the time it was going to pick us up, we were like, all right, I think we'll just drive. Anyway, it was a good 2023 for Mizzou sports. I've been enjoying seeing everybody reminiscing about last basketball season. I had to throw on the Mizzou Utah State highlights earlier today, partly just to remember what good basketball looks like. Kobe Brown, man.
He was good.
That play where he went coast to coast, went to back down the defender, spin move, reverse dunk.
I remember that was like a whole thing, like in the media kind of leading up to that game was Utah State was just like a bunch of kind of small white guys who could shoot. And it was like, how are you going to handle Kobe Brown?
Yeah.
It's like, we've played people like him in our conference. We've played players as good as him. We'll be fine.
And they had that one guy, Akin, who was
Looked like
big bodied guy who was athletic and stuff. So, but
and then Kobe just totally bullied them the whole game. So I was like,
his second half in that game was crazy.
Yeah.
Pull up threes, step back jumpers, dunking it. He's incredible.
Yeah.
This is just your reminder to, if you're feeling down or just, if you've watched a bad basketball game, just throw on some Kobe Brown highlights.
Yeah. And don't think about what happened after that Utah State game.
Exactly. They won an
NCAA
tournament.
They won the whole tournament.
Won an NCAA tournament game. First time in a decade. That's all you need to worry about. What we are going to talk about Missouri basketball, and there are 2 games since we last talked, and the start of SEC play coming up. And of course, we're going to recap the Cotton Bowl and talk transfer portal stuff. Before we do all of that, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Leave us a review wherever you listen to us. And of course, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. So we'll start with basketball here. We talked about the fact that Illinois, it's been a while since we've recorded. We took a week off for the holidays, but We talked about that Illinois team and how on paper that was like kind of a death matchup for Missouri. And sure enough, Missouri lost to Illinois 97-73. Missouri shot 6 of 27 from three, and that was one of their better statistics on the game.
Yeah.
Basically, nothing good happened. If I'm trying to find any bright spots, Sean East was able to score 18 points to stick right around his average, but had just 2 assists to 3 turnovers. That's not good. Did get 12 points from Trent Pierce, so a little bit of a bright spot, but Missouri's defense was non-existent. I mean, you give up 97 points. Illinois shot 66% from 2, 33% from 3, and Mizzou sent Illinois to the free throw line 31 times.
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago when we played Illinois. We were saying the same thing. This looks like a horrible matchup on paper. Terrence Shannon should just completely destroy us, and that didn't happen. We just ran away with the game. I don't know what happened. This year it was like, okay, this is what we felt like probably should have happened, happened. And Terrence Shannon, he showed why he's one of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
Although now he's suspended.
Yes.
They waited to suspend him right after the Missouri game.
Yes, of course.
But legal things aside, he was incredible in this game.
Went for 30.
Yeah, he just did exactly what he normally does and gets to the line and was really aggressive and was pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah. So not a whole lot to learn from that game, unfortunately. Missouri did then beat Central Arkansas 92-59. Central Arkansas, one of the worst teams in the country. So,
not much to learn there either.
Exactly. We're just beating up on these 300 level Ken Pom teams from Arkansas. Beat Arkansas Pine Bluff, scored 100 in the opening game against them, and now beat Central Arkansas. We need to be in the conference where those teams play, apparently.
Yeah, good idea.
Tamar Bates did have 25 points. Sean East had 16 points. They struggled to shoot from three still. I mean, Honor, East, and Bates combined for 6 of 10 from three. The rest of the team, 0 for 14, including 0 for 5 from Noah Carter, who really kind of struggled the whole month of December, basically. Offensively, it just hasn't been there for him. It seems like he can hit an open three, but hasn't been super consistent with it. Mm-hmm. And he can score if he's got good positioning in the post, but I don't know. I feel like I'm a broken record now, but
yeah,
we don't have guys that can create for themselves.
I think this is just you're kind of seeing what happens when the cupboard is bare a little bit, recruiting wise. We went out and got some transfers this year and just kind of missed. And so now we're relying on former JUCO players and players that can fill a role like they did last year when they have talent around them, literally 2 NBA players on the team. That makes a big difference. But when players like Sean East and Noah Carter, love those guys and they're playing their absolute hardest. But when they are, being relied upon to take over those star roles that are, left by NBA players, we can see they're not terrible players, but they just don't have the pedigree and the talent to fill those shoes like we probably thought they might.
And you always expect with that many transfers for it to take a little bit for everything to come together. Mm-hmm. But then even in the best moments, this team can go on the road and beat a top 100 team.
Right.
But you're still those areas where they struggle still show up even in those games.
Right.
And the lack of production from the front court players has been an issue. And we just, Sean East and Tamar Bates, both shooting over 50% from three, but they are not supposed to be high volume scorers.
Yeah, that's really probably the main problem. Is we're relying on 2 small guards who are not natural scorers to lead us in 3-point shooting, and it does really just feel like there's guys who can play roles, but they're just not really gelling and really playing terrible defense. Honestly, this whole season.
It kind of sucks. We're just now starting conference play, but there's a little bit of a tendency for me to be looking at the classes here and see like, okay, what can we look for in conference play as like a building block or stepping stone to next year, if this is indeed just kind of an in-between. If this is a down year for Missouri basketball, like we hope that this type of thing is what a down year looks like and not much worse than this moving forward, then obviously you're going to lose Sean East, Noah Carter, Caleb Grill. But those guys, Caleb Grill will come back halfway through conference play. You're going to lose Nick Honor. It really feels like Tamar Bates, Aiden Shaw, and the freshmen. That's what I'm going to be looking for in conference play is how are those guys developing and what are they adding to their game? Where are they building confidence that can be a stepping stone into next year?
Yeah. It does feel like some of those older players are just getting a ton of usage, and I definitely would like to see kind of the changing of the guard a little bit at some point in conference season, assuming things are not going well.
Right.
I mean, like you said, this team can still go beat really anybody on the road. They've showed that they can hang with anybody, but consistently, I don't think they're going to be able to do it for the rest of the conference season.
They're sitting at 8-5 now in non-conference play. That's good for 90th in KenPom, 72 on offense, 127 on defense. Offensively, just some highlights I picked out. We talked about the three-point shooting from East and Bates. East averaging 17 points per game. Noah Carter and Nick Honor are they're tied for second, both with 11 points per game. I would like to see Tamar Bates' usage go up, especially in these early conference games where Caleb Grill is still not available. I'd like to see his usage increase a little bit. Defensively, forcing turnovers, 43rd in the country. That's a plus, but they're giving up offensive rebounds at an insane rate, 319th in the country. They're also blocking a lot of shots randomly, second best block percentage in the country.
Yeah, thank you, Aiden Shaw.
Yeah, they did focus a lot on that in the offseason.
If we talked a lot about this last year and how just the style of play they're playing, where they're kind of almost choosing to be a little bit more aggressive on defense. They're forcing turnovers and they're just getting back instead of trying to get offensive rebounds. And they're not forcing turnovers at the rate they were last year, I would assume.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that's just hurting us a lot more than it was last year. Just the rebounding has still stayed consistently bad, but the turnovers haven't stayed as high as they were last year either.
And it's the offensive rebounding that's killing them. Giving up way too many of those. And sending teams to the free throw line way too much, not getting to the free throw line on offense.
Yeah, that's honestly such an interesting thing is I think, and maybe that has something to do with like a lot of our undersized guards like driving into the middle and like pulling out and like Sean East does classically all the time, or Nick Honor goes in there and drives in hard sometimes and maybe gets fouled, but I don't know if that's just like those guys look like they're not getting fouled because they're just getting blocked or they're too undersized to go in there and draw a foul, but it does feel like we do not get to the line nearly enough as we should be.
Missouri is top 50 in most three-pointers attempted. It's a three-pointers attempted per field goal attempted, and Missouri's top 50 in most threes.
Yeah.
So
just definitely feels like we're incapable to consistently drive in and get good shots on the inside, so we're just kind of settling for threes.
Yeah, but if we're going to shoot that many threes, like against Illinois, let's see, Missouri attempted 27 threes. Well, Sean East shot 6 of them, but that feels a little bit out of the ordinary for him. I don't know. I feel like they're kind of stuck with wanting him to be the primary facilitator, but also he's been the best scorer. So I don't know. Need to find a balance there. First game in conference play is going to be at home against Georgia. So right off the bat, we're going to get a matchup that's going to be one of the most winnable conference games the rest of the way. Georgia is 86th in KenPom, 123 on offense, 56 on defense. And when I look at Georgia, Defensively, which is their strength, of course, Mike White's the coach there. It's his second year after 7 years at Florida. Their defense is a lot like Illinois. It's like Illinois light. They're not trying to turn you over, but they are forcing you to take contested shots. And, we talked about that in the preview, and that is exactly what we saw against Illinois. Every shot was like drifting through the lane, fading away, contested threes. And that's exactly what Georgia's going to try to do. They're going to set up their half-court offense, try to force you into some bad spots offensively. They're not as good at it as Illinois is, so there will be opportunities there. I feel like Missouri should be able to have some looks from three, but Georgia has really good paint defense, and they just rely on locking guys up and making things difficult without turning you over. They're not a high offensive rebounding team, so that weakness for Missouri maybe won't come into effect as much. But this basically, I'm looking at the schedule on KenPom right now. They have Missouri favored in only 5 games in conference play. This one against Georgia is one of those. So really need this to be a win.
Yeah, it feels like we got to start off strong here. And like you said, I think Mike White's a good coach and probably a program that's on the rise, and they're a lot better than they were last year. So an athletic team that can certainly cause some issues. So I think it might be kind of an ugly game, but one that Missouri should definitely win.
Then Missouri goes on the road to play Kentucky. And Kentucky is really good this year. They're sort of leading the charge as far as the SEC trying to make a splash on the national scene this year. It's Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Auburn, A&M's right there.
Yeah.
Mississippi State's going to be good.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, almost as long as we've had this podcast, for your 4 or 5 years now, Kentucky has kind of taken the shape of this team that gets that young elite talent, has really high expectations coming into the season, and then kind of disappoints because they end up just being, a team that doesn't shoot well. They're very athletic, they're very long, but they just don't shoot as well as they should, especially when it comes down to conference play and stuff like that. And even to the point last year where I feel like Coach Calipari was kind of not on the hot seat, but maybe some of those fringe Kentucky fans, those crazy fans, like us, a lot of people wanted him gone. So this felt like a year that Coach Calipari had to kind of figure some things out, really prioritize shooting in the transfer portal, and that's what they've done. And I don't think we can tease Kentucky anymore about being a team that can't shoot, because right now they're shooting like 42% from three as a team, which is, I think, top 5 in the country.
And they're not shying away from shooting them either. They're shooting a lot of them.
And also, they're still as long and athletic as they were before, but also they can shoot. So that makes them much more dangerous than I feel like they've been the past couple of years.
Yeah, they have assembled a squad that looks like the type of team that's built to make a March run. Maybe they're relying a little bit too much on freshmen, but that's nothing new for Calipari in Kentucky.
And it'll only get better as the season goes on.
Exactly. But sort of the headline guys for them, obviously Antonio Reeves is back from last year's squad, who previously transferred there from Illinois State. He is he's their primary guy offensively, shooting 46% from 3 and 58% from 2. So he's like flirting with a 50, 40, 90 season.
That's absolutely nuts that like literally almost half the shots you're shooting from 3 are going in. That's just, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Then a name you've heard before, but has been around the block a time or two, Trey Mitchell is holding down the forward spot, 7th year senior.
He's been around.
Missouri was recruiting him in the transfer portal, feels like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But he has found himself at Kentucky, and he's playing really well. He's actually one of the few guys that's not as much of a three-point threat, although even he's shooting 38%. But he is kind of a paint beast, gobbles up rebounds, blocks a few shots. Those are the 2 seniors leading the way. Then their freshman class, guard DJ Wagner is like a facilitating, low turnover point guard. combo guard. Rob Dillingham is another freshman who has one of the best assist rates in the country, also shooting 45% from three. And then Reed Shepard is a really interesting player, shooting 56% from three on 50 attempts. Also, he is 11th in the country in steal percentage. And if you watch him play, he looks like Demoy Hodge playing defense last year for the Missouri Tigers.
He's going for it every time.
He is pesky, turning guys over like as soon as they cross half court. And they have just they've really found, I don't know, they've got the right rotations going. They did lose to Kansas back in November, and they lost to UNC Wilmington at home by 7 at the beginning of December. So they do have 2 losses, but that UNC Wilmington team, they're probably going to win 20-plus games and maybe win their conference. And
yeah, that's a classic 13 seed, mid-major team who's probably really sharp.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I can't see this Missouri team going into Rupp Arena and winning. I mean, there's super talented Kentucky teams that we've seen in the past that I feel like a Dennis Gates, hard-nosed, athletic Missouri team can compete with.
Yeah.
But this Kentucky team is just they're very, I don't know, they're very technical with their offense.
Yeah, and like you said, they do rely on freshmen a lot, and so that can come with some volatility. So I guess that's really what you hope for, is that you get in there and hopefully the freshmen have an off night, and you just do your best to get out of there with a competitive game.
You got 4 of them have to do it though. Is the problem. So I'm going to predict that Missouri splits these 2 games.
Yeah, I think so.
Gets the home win and then loses at Kentucky.
I'd take it, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we need to, it's going to be a battle to stay around 500 in conference play. Mm-hmm. So it's going to feel like every week we just need to split.
If we're going 500 in the SEC this year, I mean, the SEC feels really strong. Other than Vanderbilt, feels like every team is really pretty good. And so if you're going 5-5 in the SEC, I mean, you might give yourself a shot to be on the bubble, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Missouri, as you look down the schedule, though, they're going to need a win. They're going to need a big upset to offset the Jackson State loss.
Yep.
They're going to be chasing that all season. So we can move on to talking about the Cotton Bowl. I was going to save this for last, but I feel like it would just get us in the mood. Producer Cameron, can you hit us with Coach Drink post-game?
Faster, stronger, tougher than you in the fourth quarter, and we got an elite edge, and we're not going to be denied. And now we're the Cotton Bowl champs. M-I-Z.
C-O-U. I was going to save that for the end.
That was electrifying.
Chronologically, it makes more sense, but I just want to get
we can do it again at the end.
I like that idea.
I'm sure
very
most
much.
people know what happened, so we're not spoiling it for anyone.
Yeah. Missouri beats Ohio State 14-3. Cotton Bowl champs. Missouri finishes the season 11-2. They're going to be maybe 7th in the final AP poll. AP poll.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It was a little bit of a rough game at times. What are your thoughts right off the top? It was a little bit frustrating at times, but
yeah, I mean, honestly, it kind of went how we thought. It might go maybe a little bit worse than how we thought, but we talked about this having the potential to be kind of an ugly game. It's 2 elite defenses and 2 rusty offenses that haven't played in a month, and honestly, a Missouri offense that maybe really never found its groove totally at any point, and then Ohio State playing without their starting quarterback and best wide receiver. So, in retrospect, it's like, well, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense that, good defenses and kind of shaky offense, but it was pretty brutal. What was it? 3-0 at halftime?
Yeah. 3-0 at the start of the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Early on, it looked like there was a couple, Travion Henderson had a couple decent runs. It was like, are we going to be missing Hopper in this game?
Yeah.
It was just him and Rakestraw that didn't play. And this is not the first game that either one of them had missed. So kind of knew okay, we can withstand that a little bit. But when Henderson got going early, it was like, uh-oh, if Ohio State gets their running game going and they don't have to have these backup quarterbacks sit in the pocket, this could get rough.
Right.
But
yeah, he's definitely one of the best running backs in the country for sure. For the most part, Missouri handled him really well.
Yeah.
The defensive line was playing awesome.
yes,
They looked really confident and were honestly kind of dominating at the line of scrimmage for a lot of the game. What we definitely thought was Ohio State's weakness in this game was going to be the quarterback position. And, there wasn't a whole lot of film on Devin Brown out there, but what there wasn't very exciting. It wasn't very impressive.
not scary at all.
Not at all. And he was that same player, at least in the short amount of time that he played in this game. And so, right off the bat, Missouri was really aggressive against him and bringing blitzes, and he looked pretty uncomfortable like from the get-go.
Yes. It would have been interesting to see, obviously, he got hurt and came out of the game, and the third stringer, Lincoln Kienholz, came in. It would have been interesting to see Devin Brown play the full game and see what all they were going to try to do with him in the passing game. He was 4 of 6 passing, didn't get anything going too deep, but
yeah, just targeting Egbuka every pass, basically.
Yeah.
Who, for the most part, Missouri bottled him up, and he's going to be probably a first-round draft pick.
Yeah, but after Devin Brown went down, then there was basically no passing game to speak of, and Missouri was getting in the backfield and just was able to kind of sell out to stop the run and was able to bottle up Henderson. Ohio State was under 100 yards rushing as a team. So if you would have told me that before the game, I would have said, okay, that's definitely a good sign.
Yeah.
Missouri's offense was doing nothing early. 6 possessions, 6 punts to start the first half. Both offensive lines were struggling a bit, obviously going up against very good defensive lines on both sides.
And, very good secondary in Ohio State. So, it did, at times, it looked like the 2022 Brady Cook, a guy who was running around a lot and made some good plays with his legs, but looked very uncomfortable throwing the ball down the field. And, obviously we were not at the game. We're watching it on TV. So it's, it's kind of hard to see what he's seeing downfield, but it looked like he was reluctant to take any chances until later in the game.
Yeah.
But he really struggled early on.
It's hard. I don't know what to think sometimes as a fan, because I'm like just begging them to take a shot. I'm begging him to just let a receiver go make a play. But it's hard because I can see how it would make sense for the game plan to be like, look, they're not going to have, Ohio State's not going to have a lot going on offense. We're very confident in our defense. We don't need to go out here and take a bunch of chances to win this game. As much as fans, I'll never say, well, let's just play it safe and just try to get out of here with a win. You do that in the fourth quarter maybe, but I don't know. It's always going to be a little bit frustrating when it feels like that's the game plan from the jump.
Right. And absolutely 100%, Missouri's coming in here to win the game and not to put up stats. Like clearly it meant everything in the world for them to come in and win, almost to the point where it was like a detriment because they were not taking any chances. But I mean, you're exactly right though. Ohio State not threatening on offense in the slightest bit, just kind of out mediocre them on offense, and that's basically what we did. And it was easily enough.
Now Missouri didn't score till the fourth quarter, but probably should have had an opportunity for points at the end of the first half. They were lining up Mevis for a 65-yarder.
He was totally going to make that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And took a delay of game penalty.
And a dome.
Yeah.
He doesn't kick in domes very often.
And they were saying that he was making them from there in pregame.
Oh, I wish he had the chance.
We absolutely got robbed of that. But honestly, it's easy to overlook it now that Missouri won, but that was a pretty frustrating moment.
Yeah.
In the moment of just like, it sometimes feels like the special teams unit, the kicking unit, field goal kicking unit can't figure out the clock.
Completely unaware.
Like, it was just a normal fourth down. Missouri didn't have any timeouts.
Yeah, you
got to have some urgency there.
Yeah, Mevis was out there taking like practice kicks and stuff, and it's like, you guys got to go. Yeah. And I think that's obviously partly on Eric Link, the special teams coordinator, but also I think that's partly on Coach Drink. He's relieved himself of some of those duties. He's gotten some of those things off his plate, like the play calling and all that, to be able to dedicate more time to kind of being the head guy. So, he's got to be more aware of that stuff. And, it already happened once in the Kansas State game, and luckily it didn't burn us, but it could have.
Yeah. I mean, big picture things aside with clock management, Mevis not getting to attempt a 65-yarder there.
Legacy kick.
Yeah.
That we were robbed of.
Yes, that's going to haunt us. I don't know about the timeline here exactly, but I wanted to mention Johnny Walker had a bit of a roller coaster of a game. He ended up getting the defensive MVP award, but he had the huge sack on Devin Brown that actually was a fumble and nobody realized it. I think Mizzou fans were on it, but the refs were not. I think the official call was fumble recovered by Brown.
Yeah.
But I think he just maybe barely landed on top of the ball, and then it squirted right out to a Mizzou player.
In my opinion, that's another thing that I think maybe Coach Shrink has to be on top of a little bit more. Maybe he's in the ref's ear. Maybe he's calling a timeout there so they can look at it. I don't know, because that is a massive, massive opportunity to get the ball inside. In the red zone in a low-scoring game, you have to do everything you can do to try to get the ball there.
Yeah, but so that was good, Johnny Walker. Bad Johnny Walker with a asterisk next to it.
Yeah,
gets a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty when Ohio State's drive should have been over. But that was a little questionable because I didn't see him really do anything on
the replay.
He
got punched in the face and then I guess retaliated, of course.
Yeah.
But
on the replay, they actually only showed the Ohio State player,
right.
Open hand slapping him across the helmet. And then, yeah.
But at this point, they probably, somebody did the scouting report because, Johnny Walker has shown that he is incapable of handling those kind of emotional outbreaks. So it looks like that
reportedly spit on a player in the LSU game.
Yeah, he got thrown out of the LSU game earlier this season. So he has maybe a bit of a reputation. So they were maybe going after him.
If you know a guy has those tendencies, try to rattle him a little bit. But it all worked out okay.
It all did. Yeah, and then he got to do a little speech after the game.
Yes. He was the defensive MVP. Missouri offensively finally got things going. They had a drive started on their own 5-yard line and get a big play to Marquise Johnson. And that is it was a 50-yard pass completion, the longest pass given up by Ohio State this year. You called that in the preview.
Yeah, and after that they had all the momentum.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to show that you're capable of throwing the ball down the field because it opens everything else up. Yeah. And that's basically what ended up happening was Cody Schrader started doing his thing.
Yeah, he scored the touchdown, give Mizzou 7-3 lead. And then a couple drives later, Mizzou starting on their own 9-yard line this time, go on another touchdown drive. Cody Schrader ran the ball 9 times on that drive. And then it ended with a play action pass to Luther Burden for the touchdown. Brady Cook fitting it in a window between the ref and the defender and then into Luther Burden's hands.
Yeah, that was such a weird thing. That definitely felt like we don't need to throw here. Cody Schrader is going to get in the end zone, but we're going to get Lou a touchdown here.
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Producer Cameron, you had thoughts on the Brady Cook to Luther Burden?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to say that the concentration for Luther Burden to make that catch, it's insane. He's going, basically loses the ball behind the ref.
Yeah.
At one point in the route, the ball's behind the ref, and he can't see it.
Yeah.
And he still is able to haul it in.
They gave us that
incredible concentration.
Good throw, too.
Yeah.
They gave us that back of the end zone angle a couple times.
It's going through the ref and 2 defenders and just perfectly catches it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Just building that highlight reel for the draft process, the draft profile someday.
He had another big play in Missouri's last drive to kind of just finish off the game, end around run. And that was hilarious at the end. He runs right over the ref, and he didn't mean to do this, but he just runs over the ref. Ref's laying on the ground. Luther Burden flexes on him. And
yeah, we were cracking up about that.
Watching the replay of that play, you see Cody Schrader run over there and kind of be like, okay, come on, get out of here. And then he like checks on the ref. It's like
Cody did?
Yes,
Or yeah, okay.
Cody Schrader did. Like he
barreled him over.
He saw like, you just ran over this guy. Now you're flexing on him. Can we maybe do this over
yeah,
here?
because it was like basically a game clinching like first down run. So
Yeah.
obviously he was excited about that.
Yeah, that was a funny moment.
Yeah, I think like players like in any college or NFL game, like players running over someone on the sideline is always such a funny interaction because a lot of times they just completely ignore it.
Yeah.
But
Luther Burden on the touchdown gave the LeBron James celebration, even when crowned himself in front of the Ohio State fans.
I'm him, he said.
Yeah. But that was it. I was kind of hoping that maybe Missouri would get one more score there. It would have
me
been a
too.
little bit nicer looking on the scoreboard.
This was
but-
definitely like, and this is just a microcosm of like what this game meant to Missouri as a whole. But for me personally, I feel like I have a lot of friends and family who it's like, oh, you're like a Mizzou fan. That's cute. They had a good season. Good for them. Like, oh, they're playing Ohio State in the bowl game. That was basically like the reaction of all of my friends and family that are a little bit more casual. It's like, okay, wow, that's a brand I've heard of. Like, you beat Ohio State. Like, okay, wow, you actually had a good season.
Yeah.
And so for them to go out and perform that well, hold Ohio State to 3 points, I think that just means so much for Missouri football and the nationwide brand and recruiting and all that stuff. I think it's just such a massive win. And to do it in the way they did it is awesome.
Yeah. Watching all of the post-game celebration and everything, it went right into SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt. And the way, it's a little bit of a tangent, but the way I at least consume sports in 2023, now in 2024, it's like I just watch my team play and that's about it. Maybe I get some news and stuff from Twitter or whatever, watch YouTube highlights and stuff. But think back to when I was younger and you just watched ESPN all day. At least that was me.
Yeah.
Just you watch every talk show, multiple cycles of the same SportsCenter.
Same highlights.
Yes. And so it was nice to just like watch the game and then it just goes right into SportsCenter with SVP.
Yeah. They're like showing the highlights. They're talking about the game. They interviewed Coach Drink.
Yes. And we got to see that. I mean, obviously, Missouri played in 13 Super Bowls this year, if you ask the opposing fans of every single game. But this was the one where it's like, yeah, this is the Super Bowl. This is the last game of the season.
This is the game we want to win.
Yeah. It's a big bowl game against Ohio State. This is the one to treat like the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the celebration was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, the New Year's Six games, those are like the feature game that day, basically. It's the only game going on. The whole country's watching.
Yep. ESPN primetime. And Coach Drinkwitz, it just feels like he had hours of things to say, just like ready to go, because it started with that on the stage when they're presenting the trophies, into the SVP interview. He's talking about David and Goliath and he's bringing a slingshot out. And it just like, that is Coach Drinkwitz at his best. I feel like sometimes he can, grade on you a little bit, at least me. It's like, come on, like just play the game a little bit, be personable. But when Mizzou's winning, when Mizzou's on top, he is just the life of the party.
Yeah. And that's exactly why so many fan bases hate him.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. And yeah, people, it's just like weirdos on Twitter or whatever, where like, act like you've been there before or whatever. And like, no, that's not what I want to see out of my coach in this moment. I want to see him hyping up Cody Schrader when he's coming off the field. I want to see him talking up the players and just go crazy. Like this is your moment.
For sure.
You may not have a moment quite like this again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I enjoy that my coach enjoys what he does and is loving it and is passionate about his players and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I don't want an emotionless CEO coaching my team. Like, yeah. I think
nobody's going to care. I didn't care the moment it was announced that Kyle McCord was transferring. I did not care who the quarterback was for Ohio State. Don't care how many players opt out. Don't care. Missouri beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl for their 11th win of the season when they were picked, I can't even remember what they were picked second to last in the SEC East.
Yeah.
Never were even supposed to be there. But this man just gives me it. It feels like it's 2013 again. You had that disappointing season the year before, where that year was injuries. Last year, for this Missouri team, it was these fluke plays that cost them wins.
Yeah. And I really think Missouri's in this position a little bit more over the last 10 years if they can get the mix of offense and defense a little bit closer together at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, this defense, it was maybe close to elite at times this season, but they were not necessarily world beaters. This offense was not elite at all for a lot of the season, but they were just good enough, like both units, and really came together. And, you know, we've seen Missouri have some really good offenses in the Drew Lock era. We've seen some really, really good defenses like in 2015, but we just haven't been solid on both sides of the ball at the same time. And, you know, I think Missouri showed that if you can kind of get the mix right at the same time, you don't have to be, you know, incredible to get where you want to be.
Yeah, if I may disagree with you slightly, that I think that both units are maybe a little bit better than you're giving them credit for, but I'm going to give you a little bit of inside information. Don't tell ESPN I'm about to give out proprietary stats.
Oh, no.
But post bowl game, Missouri's offense and defense, and I can't remember which one is which. One's ranked 13th, one's ranked 14th in SP Plus.
That's pretty solid.
So they have climbed all the way up to 10th overall in SP Plus predictive analytics rankings. That's behind a paywall on ESPN.com. But so you didn't hear that from me.
Sorry, Bill Connolly.
Yeah. But to what you're saying though is they did it. They matched up. I mean, you can't be more, you know, well matched than top 15 on both sides of the ball at the same time.
Yep.
That's how you win 10 plus games.
For sure.
Who
Who wins though, this team or 2013? Did you know I was going to ask you that?
I didn't. I should have been prepared for that.
It's probably 2013 team, right?
I'm trying to think.
It'd be a good game though.
It would be a good game. I don't know. I think I might take this year's team. I'm thinking about that team had Gaines in the defensive backfield. EJ Gaines.
Shane Ray, Marcus Golden.
That pass rush is causing problems for this Missouri team. And
Michael Sam.
Probably 2013. I'm trying to think.
DGB.
Yeah. But I think...
Damian Washington. That whole offensive line went to the NFL.
True.
I don't know.
I feel like if Missouri's defense is healthy, if you've got Chris Abrams-Drain and Rakestraw back there, I think
It's
Missouri's
really close.
defensive secondary would cause problems for that offense, I think.
Secondary this year is better than 2013. I would agree with that.
Yeah. I'd like to see Cody Schrader versus Henry Josie.
Oof.
Pretty
Talking about some Mizzou legends here.
crazy running back matchup. Maybe, fingers crossed, I can hope and pray that in the new college football video game, they'll just let you make custom rosters and we can play around with that kind of stuff.
We can actually make them play each other.
Yeah, that'd be a dream.
Yes or no, Missouri makes the college football playoff next year?
Sure, why not? I already said they're going to win 11 games in the regular season and play Alabama in the SEC championship game, or Georgia.
And everybody's leaving Alabama in the offseason, so...
I think I said Missouri-Georgia SEC
Yeah, I think you
championship
did.
game.
Yeah.
If you get there, either way, you're
Probably
in.
in.
So, yeah, we're in.
Why not?
Yeah, producer Cameron, give it to us one more time.
Faster, stronger, tougher than you in the fourth quarter, and we got an elite edge, and we're not going to be denied. And now we're the Cotton Bowl champs. M-I-Z.
C-O-U. Beautiful.
Impressive performance by the fans also, by the way,
Yeah.
for those that went.
Outnumbered the Ohio State fans by quite a bit. And I know we have lots of people in our audience that were there. So salute to you guys for making the trip and being loud. Next week or here pretty soon, we'll just, really dive in and take a walk back through the season. It was such a special season. It feels like we should devote a little bit more time to going back to the beginning and reliving it a little bit. But for now, we will talk transfer portal a little bit. First, we've had a few Mizzou players who have announced their future plans. Chuck Hicks, Mookie Cooper, and Joseph Charleston have all announced that they'll be returning for next year. So that's a good start. Ennis Rakestraw Jr. declares for the NFL draft, which is pretty predictable.
Yeah, seen a lot of buzz for Ennis Rakestraw already from some of the mock drafters, some of the sharper minds in the community of the NFL draft for sure. There's been a lot of buzz, and I wouldn't be surprised to see even Rakestraw maybe even going on Thursday night in the first round. So we'll see, though.
I saw that pop up once or twice over the course of the season that people were like, hey, watch out for this guy.
Yeah.
The teams are just not throwing at him.
Right. Yeah, literally just totally avoiding him. And I think what I already love about what I've seen people saying about him is they just have noticed the emotion and the toughness and those intangibles that he has in his game, and clearly just wants it more than anyone out there, and which is what seems like the last thing that you would notice on somebody's film just watching highlights or whatever. But if the scouts and the people that matter, that are making those decisions, already know that about him, I think that's going to bode really well for him.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to take very long once the NFL draft process starts up. I don't think it's going to take very long for him to shoot up the big boards. It's crazy how teams were not throwing at him, but then he would still make huge impact plays. I'm thinking about like tackles at the line of scrimmage where it's open space and he has to do it one-on-one. He came through multiple times this year, making big tackles like that.
Feels like yesterday we were just watching Coach Drink react to his commitment. And
that's crazy.
Doesn't look so silly now the way he reacted.
No.
I think Coach Drink knew something.
Yeah, he knew what he had there. Mm-hmm. Even Rakestraw himself, I saw on Twitter somebody was posting the 24/7 Sports 2020 class, and I mean it's Rakestraw, it's Chris Abrams-Drain, it's Brady Cook. I mean, guys that are performing this season. And Rakestraw quote tweeted it and was like, my ranking was still way too low here.
He's right.
That's true. Another guy that will be declaring for the draft that's maybe a little bit more of a surprise, J.C. Carlisle declares for the draft. He was a guy that I thought maybe, obviously he had another year of eligibility because he played in 2020. I thought maybe the allure of running it back and trying to go for the playoff run might get him to come back, but can't really blame him. Kind of going out on top with a 11-win season, bowl champion. I feel like a little bit of an underrated player the last couple years in Missouri's defense, just like quietly solid, just very, very solid. It finishes his Mizzou career with 220 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 9 interceptions, and 3 forced fumbles.
Yeah. I think Carlisle is a guy that had a shot to go pro last year and decided to come back and play. I think he is probably pretty happy with that decision. And like you said, he's going out on top. He can't really end the season much better than they did this year. So can't blame him. But, man, I agree. He's a powerful safety and is really versatile in the run game and in pass defense. Like just some of those big hard hits. And he didn't have a lot of interceptions this year, but in previous years, he was kind of even a ball hawking safety at times. So
even in limited action, like when he was younger, he would just come up with big plays like that.
For sure. So he's might be a little bit of an underrated prospect.
Still some other guys with decisions to make. Chris Abrams-Drain, you expect to go pro.
It almost feels like Chris Abrams-Drain, like without knowing anything actually, but just speculation. It feels like a guy that like maybe in his heart wants to come back, but like knows he should probably just move on and make the business decision. And I wouldn't fault him for that whatsoever.
With jumping back to Carlisle, with him moving on, opens up an opportunity for Marvin Burks to contribute more.
For sure. That definitely doesn't sting quite as bad because you've got some good young players coming up.
And we know Toriano Pride coming over in the transfer portal is going to help out in the secondary quite a bit.
For sure.
Trying to think if there's anybody that will really be like on the edge of our seat waiting for their decision. Theo Weiss, we expect to come back.
Yeah, it feels like we really kind of know, I think, for the most part. Like, we're pretty sure what's going to happen with some of the guys that haven't announced yet. But yeah, it does really feel like Theo Weiss, like even Coach Drinkwitz, like acknowledged it on Twitter. He said 1 more year.
Yeah.
And so I think Theo Weiss
Theo's
is going to
dad is like, we'll see.
pump the brakes on that.
I think he sent a GIF that said coming soon.
Yeah. So I think we're going to get Theo Weiss back. I think we'll probably get Christian Williams back. So that'll help the defensive line. And man, Christian Williams, just another guy who's like just silently great.
Yeah.
Just don't really hear his name called a whole lot, but just is a great run stuffer. And
Yeah, I'm thinking back
year.
to preseason when it looked like he's going to be one of the main guys on the interior of the defensive line. It was like, okay, little bit unknown there, a little bit unsure, but could be okay. And he was better than okay.
Yeah, totally underrated, even at Mizzou for sure. What he's done this season, and I think he'll probably come back. But yeah, so we're pretty much just still waiting on Chris Abrams-Drain, really. Maybe a couple more guys I'm forgetting about.
So then, looking at the transfer portal, Missouri landed a commitment from former Florida defensive lineman Chris McClellan. He committed to Mizzou over Oklahoma. That's been a bit of a trend recently.
Yeah.
Has 2 years of eligibility remaining, was a 4-star player out of high school. Huge pickup.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't like necessarily have a ton of stats that he accumulated at Florida, but played a lot, and still a very talented run stopper.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like you said, a lot of other prestigious teams wanted him, and so
Oklahoma.
Yeah. It's a pretty big win for Missouri there.
They picked up a commitment from former Murray State punter Orion Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, I think our punting game might have been the weakest unit on the field consistently throughout the year.
And Riley Williams transferring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Luke Bauer he had some good moments, but not some.
He had one really good moment.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. He saved the season at one point. Yeah. But I think this is probably a good move to and Orion Phillips had a great season at Missouri State as a freshman. Murray State as a freshman. And so, he has a chance to come in and kind of win this job for the next 3 seasons potentially. And he looks like a guy who could be really good.
I wouldn't mind some consistency back there.
Yeah. And he's got some good hair.
Love that.
It's like Thor.
Oh, yeah.
A little skinnier.
A little bit. Imagine a punter just like basically Chris Hemsworth walks out there.
Jacked, dude.
Punts the ball. Missouri also picked up a commitment from 2 brothers, Miami transfer linebacker Corey Flagg Jr. and his brother Caleb, who was a safety at Houston Christian. Obviously, the big pickup there is Corey Flagg Jr. He was at Miami with Blake Baker back in 2020, has 179 career tackles.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of a sneaky, just super great pickup for the defense. Like, not necessarily like super athletic guy, but is just really, really solid interior linebacker who will just always be there in the right spot and help clean up stuff for the defense next season. So I kind of play in the hopper role a little bit, and he's going to be maybe the leading tackler on the team next year potentially.
Speaking of Blake Baker, the rumors are swirling again. Obviously, actually, that's news. The contract extensions for Baker and Kirby Moore were completed. There was speculation about that 2 weeks ago when we were talking. And Coach Drinkwitz got another year added to his contract, assuming there's a pay raise involved, but the details on all that haven't been released yet. But now, LSU and whatever his name is, the head coach over there, I always want to call him
Kelly.
I always want to call him Chip Kelly is the problem. It's Brian
That'd
Kelly.
be half right.
Chip's brother Brian sent all the defensive staff packing, basically. Is that right? Do I understand that right?
That's correct, including Robert Steeples.
Right. So hopefully that, tames down the in-state, the Missouri recruiting
The
for
recruiting
LSU.
pipeline.
Yeah. And Mekhi Wingo announced he's headed to the NFL draft from LSU. So that kind of makes sense if his guy was getting let go. Yeah. But yeah, so they're overhauling their defensive staff, and Blake Baker from Louisiana, What you were telling me, his wife played volleyball there.
Soccer, I believe. Yeah,
Okay.
he's got some ties for sure to LSU, and they're looking for some new staff members over there.
But we've talked about this before. It's a lateral move.
No lateral moves.
No
allowed.
lateral moves. Hashtag no lateral moves. So we're not worried about it. Is that right?
I would say 80% chance he's at Missouri.
Okay.
Made it a little more expensive to come get him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I don't think money's a problem for LSU.
Probably not. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. 80%.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Yeah, that's close enough to 100 for me. Back to the transfer portal. We have some players visiting. You take it away there on you got a nice little list there of players from the portal visiting Missouri soon.
Yeah, we got a few confirmed visits, and I think the big name that a lot of you guys probably already know about is Nick Scorton. He's a defensive end from Purdue. He also is going to be visiting Florida State, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. And by the way, Texas A&M had a lot of people transfer out, but that means they're also looking for a lot of players to come play for them now. Mm-hmm. They've got a new coaching staff, so they got a little bit of that new coaching bump potentially. They've actually been doing pretty well in the transfer portal so far. So, and also they got a crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong. He did a crystal ball for Scorton to A&M today, I believe.
I think he's at A&M today visiting.
Okay.
I think he visits Mizzou on the 5th.
That would make sense. So hopefully we don't get any news coming out of that visit. Hopefully we get him to Mizzou. And so he led the Big Ten in sacks as a sophomore. He had 10 sacks this season. So obviously he's a hot commodity, and hopefully Missouri's still got a chance there. Less heralded guy is Nate Noel, and he's a running back from Appalachian State. And he is also visiting this weekend. He has been the starting running back for App State for the last 3 seasons. He's been really productive. This past season, he had 834 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. So obviously Missouri has some holes to fill at running back, and they've been pretty aggressive there. They added Marcus Carroll and freshman K'Wan Lacey, and looks like they're probably going to add somebody else if they decide they want to go Noel's direction. I don't think there's a whole lot of competition for him right now.
Yeah, but need to fill up that running back room.
Yeah, just kind of a steady guy that would probably help spell Marcus Carroll a little bit.
Competitive depth.
Exactly. We're picking.
Yep.
And then the last one is Derek Graham, who is an offensive lineman from Troy. Once again, visiting this weekend. And he is also visiting Pittsburgh, A&M, and Ohio State. And he's a pretty versatile offensive lineman who played 3 seasons at Troy. So the fact that he can play tackle or guard, I think makes him pretty attractive to any of the Power 5 teams that are after him.
Do you want to put your personal crystal ball on any one of those 3 guys to come to Mizzou?
Yeah, I mean, I think Noel is probably the most likely, but I don't have a great feel on Scorton or Graham really, but I think Missouri's definitely got a shot on all 3 of those guys.
It's so nice to, I feel like in previous seasons, it's been like, okay, we've missed on this guy. We've missed on this guy. We're not getting our, what feels like as fans, at least our top priorities in the portal. Mm-hmm. And so you get to this stage in the game after the new year, and it's like, okay, we need a commitment or 2 to start feeling good about this.
Yeah.
And it feels so good to just have, especially at those key holes that we've been talking about, have a few of those spots filled by top tier guys. It just takes the pressure off this time.
Yeah, even just getting visits with some of the hottest names in the transfer portal, I think is better than what we've seen in Missouri recruiting the last 5 years or so. So even just getting these guys on campus when everybody wants them, I think it says a lot about how Missouri is viewed nationwide right now.
Anybody else? Any other portal news?
I believe all that I know of that's been confirmed.
We were noticing that Mekhi Wingo did it, and I can't remember who else.
Yes.
But there's this
Trajan Jeffcoat. And literally several other former Missouri players
are making sure, going out of their way to include Mizzou in what they're thinking Coach Drinkwitz. They're even including a picture of them in a Mizzou uniform in their announcements to go pro.
Yeah, just various announcements the players make, whether
Yeah.
they're returning or transferring or going pro or whatever they're doing.
They're making sure to include Mizzou as a place that they've been.
Exactly, and so
It's a little strange. It's very interesting.
It's so funny, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, Missouri was a place they're good now. That was a place I played.
I want to be associated with that.
Exactly.
All right, that's fine, I guess. If that's what happens when you win 11 games, I'll take it. All right, so all we have left is to go over our bowl pick'em, and there's a little bit of drama. We'll let producer Cameron take it away.
Okay.
Britt's gonna be upset.
He's upset.
Going into
Rightfully
last
so.
Yeah.
going into last week, I don't remember the scores, but Kyle was ahead by 1. I was behind Kyle by 1, and the guest pickers were behind me by 1. And,
That's all that matters.
And you were out there
and
somewhere.
Cameron was somewhere.
I was here.
This
Trying your
week,
best.
Cameron got 6 points. Kyle got 6 points. I got 9 points. Guest pickers got 10 points.
Oh,
Is that like a perfect slate?
So close to a perfect slate.
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
So
it
close.
wasn't.
That brings our season totals to Cameron has 81, Kyle 87, myself and the guest pickers 89.
Tied at 89.
Tied at 89.
Man, I didn't realize
For
I
the
did that
win.
bad.
Co-champions.
Give us a couple of the big games that
Yeah.
we did good or bad.
There were a couple upset games that you didn't get, Kyle, that hurt you. The Penn State Ole Miss game, you were on an
I was on
island.
island for that. Yeah.
And Auburn, Maryland, you were not on an island.
You and I.
I should have known whenever you and I agreed. That was a bad sign.
Now, a little behind the scenes information here. Britt originally picked Michigan to beat Alabama.
But he like said also like we should make this kind of a collaborative thing with the guest pickers.
Yes.
It's the big last week. We're going for it all. Let's
Yes.
let's combine our minds here.
Yes.
And that was what it did him in.
Yeah, just a bad idea, Britt. You got to know that you're smarter than them. And really, it was all on Tyler. He came in and said, "No, Michigan is fraudulent. Alabama all the way." And if it weren't for that, the guest pickers would have won all by themselves. And since there's a tie, the official bylaws of SEC Pick'em plus Nebraska say that we just throw out the entire year and try again next year.
If there's no SEC games and no Nebraska, then there's no games to pick.
Exactly.
And so it just ends how it ends.
Yeah. So try again next year, everybody, including you, producer Cameron. Sorry, but I just wrote the bylaws in my head just now.
There's nothing on the trophy for this year.
Well, that's that, I guess.
We'll see. We'll see if they,
Producer Cameron's handled the trophy, so we can let him decide what he wants to do with it.
That's true. If guest pickers and producer Cameron name end up on there, it won't be too big of a deal, I guess. But yeah, congratulations. Good picks all season long.
I knew I was going to lose it right at the end.
I knew I was going to lose it November 7th.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's been a while.
Yeah, a couple months ago.
Great year though of Pick'em.
Yeah. Is that it?
I was hoping that Alabama was going to win so I could like stay alive another week and have a chance because I knew I was behind.
I was hoping Alabama was going to win because I am just all in SEC homer
Look
in
at
those
you.
situations.
Disgusting.
SEC.
I'm with you.
SEC. That's another thing. We're about to wrap it up here, but Mizzou being good and like SEC outlets and stuff embracing Mizzou this year
Yeah.
has been such a nice thing to see.
I'm so tired of Missouri having to carry the SEC.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, especially the SEC East.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you see? I'm sure you saw what Georgia did to Florida State.
I
We
saw
all knew that was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Like that was just the most predictable thing in the world.
Britt literally said Georgia by 100.
It was almost true.
Yeah,
Close, yeah.
They probably
won by
could've-
60.
They could have made it 100, I think, if they really wanted to.
If they had another quarter, they easily would have.
They pulled their starters and like second stringers even in the fourth quarter. There was guys playing and scoring touchdowns in that game that are never going to see the field again.
They're going to be accountants next year.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this one thing, Cameron. Should Georgia have been in the playoff?
Um,
Were they one of the best 4 teams?
I don't think so. They are right there. I
So
mean,
you're just saying Florida State was just that bad.
yeah, and like half their
Florida
team
State's like number
opted out.
25.
Yeah, half their team like opted out. But I mean, Michigan and Washington are undefeated.
They're
They
deserving.
won their games. They're playing for the national championship. Texas was, a few plays away from being there.
So you're telling me if Georgia and Texas played, Texas wins?
No. Best
I
team.
rest my case.
Neutral field. Yeah. Probably, yeah.
We'll never know.
No. Yeah.
And that's what makes sports great.
It seems like, you can't argue with when they play the games. It feels like Washington and Michigan are the top two. Then there's a group of three right behind them. And then Mizzou is right there.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. Ohio State right there. Another tier down. I'm happy with that, though.
Faster, stronger, tougher than you in the fourth quarter, and we got an elite edge, and we're not going to be denied. And now we're the Cotton Bowl champs. M-I-Z.
Tell him, Coach. Tell him.
Man, the crowd at the end of that,
Yeah.
I was not expecting that the first time I heard it.
We travel.
Oh, yeah. Not us,
That's not us. We
literally,
don't
specifically.
travel.
But yeah.
We don't have any money.
Yeah, they do, though. They got our back. Are we done here?
Yeah.
Special thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above: Britt Treese, Brian Smith, Ryan Demore, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker, Daddy JD, Tim Keynes, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Garofalo, Brandon Hanks, Matthew Tilley, Louis Hernandez, and Joshua Jacobson. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We love you very much. You can find this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. This is a podcast. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod. And you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.